Hi everybody, it's me, the Fetch, host of Inside the Eye Live. Before the Sunday mainstream media political pundit talk shows, there is Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. Add in some entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Dr. Sasha Lessin, and today we interview our very special guests who are experiencers, Elizabeth April and Osie, and they are speakers at the Alien Cosmic Expo, June 24th to 26th at aliencosmicexpo.com. This is in Brentwood near Toronto. Before we bring on our guests, I'm going to tell you a little bit about both of them. Elizabeth April will be exploring the topic of hybrids, who are a combination of both human and alien species, provide an overview of human and alien past lives, and the fact that we've all had past lives before this one, and that you are the sum of all your past lives, human or alien. It wasn't until her first conscious abduction at the age of 18 when she started to come to the realization that she herself was also connected to these extraterrestrials through past life lineage. Through channeling, meditation, and many interdimensional self-portraits, Elizabeth has finally come to terms with her connection, the information she has accessed, and the reason for her existence. And there's more about Elizabeth on aquarianradio.com, much longer bio. And Osie, as a young child living in rural Newfoundland on the outskirts of Grand Falls, Osie woke up screaming every night from her terrible nightmares. She believes she was abducted as a child and is still being abducted today by aliens who've been doing medical procedures on her for her entire life. Osie will reveal her startling abduction stories at the Alien Cosmic Expo. She is one of the experiencers who tells her incredible stories in What If? Close Encounters of the Unusual Kind, which is the latest UFO book written by Brentford's own Bob Mitchell. So, Dr. Lessin, what would you like to say before just a little bit. We're going to start with Elizabeth April. I go through her story and ask her a few questions, and then we're going to switch to Osie and get her story and a few questions. And then we're going to go kind of round table and all of us talking about this phenomenon of alien contact, experiencers, abductees, and contactees.
Yeah, we suffer from pluralistic ignorance. That is, so many people have been abducted. So many people are in touch with their past lives and their future and simultaneous lives, for that matter, and yet they keep it to themselves because of the social sanctions and the fear of ridicule. And it's only with programs like what we're going to be experiencing at the Cosmic Expo, where you get to really see that this is huge, that many, many, many millions of people have been abducted, and there's often consent, even if it isn't in this particular lifetime, for the contact Sometimes the consent to the contact is part of a karmic contract from before. And now this program, and Osie and Elizabeth are going to help us a great deal with this, start to open this up. And you out there that have had experiences or think you may have had some contact experience with people from the inner earth or off the planet, had past life experiences that come to you, recurrent dreams that show you that. Don't diss those experiences. Nurture them. Let them expand. Share them.
So we're going to start with you, Elizabeth. Welcome to the Sacred Matrix.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead. Now I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay,
we
great.
want to know more about your story and your experiences with extraterrestrials. So go ahead and take it away and tell us what you want us to hear.
Okay, great. So my experiences started at quite a young age, and it was actually from around the age of 2 years old where my parents started to realize that I was a little bit different. I was talking to things and seeing things that they themselves couldn't see. And then throughout my childhood, I had many experiences of, having really bad headaches and not knowing why, bad nightmares and nosebleeds. And then around the age of 10, that's when I started to come into realization that not only could my family not see or experience what I was seeing, but my friends as well also couldn't see what I could see. So that kind of realization of where society was coming from and the fact that I didn't really fit into the norm of society really struck me hard at that age. And that's when I started to actually shut off my abilities. So from about the age of 10 years old to 16, I really just dedicated my life to physical pursuits. So just kind of being normal, fitting in, a lot of athleticism, a lot of sports and things like that. And then it was actually when I was 16, my dad gave me my first ever past life regression. And it was through this past life regression where I went into many different lifetimes on this planet that really had a lot to do with me being like a prophet or oracles, monks, people who had access to information. And that's when I started to really open myself back up to the possibilities of the fact that I might not actually be who I am in this lifetime. So that really started to open me up around the age of 16. And then it was actually when I was 18 years old where I had my first ever conscious abduction. So I got abducted quite often when I was a kid, but I was never consciously aware of it. And in that way, I actually blocked out a lot of memories from childhood based on these abductions. So when I got abducted when I was 18, it was a pretty harsh realization that this is something that's actually going on. And that is when I truly opened myself up to not just past lifetimes here on planet Earth, but past lifetimes throughout the universe. And after this conscious abduction, and really they opened my energies up to start to receive a lot of messages again. That's when I actually did my first ever self-portrait of me as an ET. And that was when I was 18, and that really expanded my understanding of who I was beyond just this physical lifetime. And then my journey since 18 has just kind of continued to expand myself, and in understanding who I am and why I'm here, I understand that my purpose here is to help others in understanding who they are and why they're here. And at this time on the planet, we actually have a lot of individuals here who are also starseed beings, is what I like to call them, or individuals who are in a human body but who are not originally from planet Earth. And I work one-on-one with those beings, helping them to understand who they truly are, and in understanding that, they can come into their mission and help many other people with that understanding. So that's kind of a brief overview of who I am and why I'm here, and I guess my journey to get here.
Elizabeth, you've really come upon something that's really useful, and that is drawing. And when you start drawing, things pour out, and this is a great technique.
Absolutely.
Where might we find this piece of art? Is it on your website?
So actually, I do YouTube videos. So the information that I channel from the universe and my spirit guides and my ET guides, I channel that information through YouTube videos, and I actually just released a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago outlining what starseeds are, and in that video I have a little brief introduction to, how I came to understand myself, and I actually show the piece of art in that video. So if you are interested, I'm on YouTube just as my name, Elizabeth April, and that's where you can see that piece of art. And so I actually drew myself as a tall gray Zeta Reptilia, which is pretty cool.
Oh, okay, you're a tall gray.
Yeah, so that's the main species that I work with and that I have very close connections to.
And you've said that you're not just that you've had other lifetimes in other forms, but that you're a hybrid now. Could you say some more about that?
Yeah, so I am simultaneously existing here as a human, but also as, I guess you could say, also as an ET. So I directly connect with my family, you could call it, on the mothership, but also because time doesn't exist for me when I channel, and it's simultaneous, I can go back into that lifetime and converse with myself at that time. Now, the reason why it's so important for me to be connecting myself with that lifetime and simultaneously bringing that information into this lifetime is because the whole reason why I was existing in that lifetime as a Zeta was because I was there for humanity's awakening on planet Earth. So believe it or not, I was this other ET being, but the only reason why I was this ET being around planet Earth was to help humanity. So all of the information that I came to understand in my 600 years of existence, give or take, in that lifetime, I'm actually channeling and pulling down into this lifetime. So I actually agreed. I made my contracts in that lifetime to come down into this lifetime now to manifest myself to expand humanity and help with the awakening here and now.
So what's your message for humanity?
My message, there's many messages. The truth is infinite, there is one big picture, but there isn't just one sentence to really sum up that big picture. But the main thing that I try and spread right here, right now, is to allow humanity to take their power back. And this is something that I've really been pushing out lately and something that's really been coming through me because we as individuals, as humans, we have given our power away to institutions, to corporations, to education systems, to government. And now we're at a point in our lives where we feel like we can't make our own decisions or we can't live our own life, or at the end of the day, we can't expand our own consciousness, right? So the main lesson or the main thing that I'm kind of spreading right now is just to take your power back and start asking yourself, who am I and why am I here?
I wanted to go back a little bit because this is fascinating, and this is happening to a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah.
My story is very similar. I'm aware of my multidimensional self and my interaction with my many selves, and we're outside of time and space, so things are happening now, and there is only now.
Yes.
And so the past life, future life, current life is kind of an illusion, but it's the way that we humans symbol things. I want to go back to, you said that your father took you into your past life regressions. What prompted that? I guess your father's a hypnotherapist. What prompted you to ask him, and why didn't he do it before? Like when you were 5?
Well, yeah. So the interesting
16?
So the interesting thing here is that my dad isn't actually a hypnotherapist. He's an engineer. But he was very spiritual himself, I guess, for the time, and he did past life regression through university to actually pay for university, which is pretty cool. So he kind of always was that spiritual person in my life that I could relate to. And it was really this, what prompted it was probably the fact that he always knew that I was different, or that I was like a quote unquote old soul or a flower child. And he asked me if I would be interested in doing something like that. And it just struck me when I was having a really, really hard time understanding this society. And I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Let's find out something else other than, what's in front of me right here, right now. So that's kind of what prompted it.
Interesting.
Well, I just wonder, because you have Zeta Strength, if that affected your athletics.
You know what? I've never really linked the two. It's funny because as a Zeta, I was like, 8-9 feet tall. As a human, I'm just over 5 feet. So it's kind of a cruel irony that they would put me in this tiny, tiny little body in this lifetime. And I laugh so hard at it. But I do have an incredible amount of strength for my size. And although I've never really thought about that, it definitely makes sense that would be my Zeta characteristic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also Oh, sorry. Just one more
okay.
thing.
Go ahead.
Also, part of the main message or the main reason why I'm here is to usher in this awakening. But with this awakening, there is also something called the Hybrid Project. Have you ever heard of this project?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
Like
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. Yes. So I'm also part of this project, and I'm helping facilitate these hybrids coming to Earth at this time, actually. So that's been pretty cool, and I've been keeping tabs on where that's at and how it's coming along. So.
Do you have hybrid children?
Nope, no children so far, but I do. I've seen them, I've seen them in visions and whatnot, and I do know that it's very interesting because when I was the Zeta, the tall gray Zeta, at that time, I was actually the ambassador for my species. So I was alive for about 600 years roughly, but I was ambassador for about 400 of those, and during my reign. That's where all the information that I accessed and came into. And the other ambassador for the Zetas at that time, who was obviously a very, very close ally for me, is actually going to be my son, incarnated as my son in this lifetime. So both ambassadors from that time are going to be incarnated for the awakening.
Were you male or female as an ambassador?
I was male, and so was my partner.
Mm-hmm.
But there were also asexual species, or there was male, female, and asexual in the Zetas.
So there's more than two genders. Yeah, we find a lot of species.
What do the Zetas tell you about the Earth changes that are upon us?
Okay, so the Earth changes. There's going to be a lot of shifting, and I'm sure a lot of you are already feeling survival mode. And it almost comes in waves of survival mode because this battle between, I want to say light and dark, to put it very basic, this battle between light and dark has been waging for quite some time now, and it is in fact coming to a pivotal moment, and that's why, there is a lot of excitement building with this awakening. So yes, a lot of shifts, yes, a lot of war and famine and corruption and things like that happening on the political and global level, but at the end of it we are going to come out so much stronger and so much more aware than we ever have been before.
I really like hearing you say that. My contacts among the Anunnaki say the same thing, that this is the dawning of the Age of Aquarius, and that the old strife is from the Kali Yuga is ending, and we're entering the Sata Yuga, the time of peace and love.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Go ahead.
Fascinating. Oh, and we're going to go into all this in a lot greater detail. I do want to give Osie a chance. Just one more question before we pull on Osie. What was the question I had? Oh, you are other species too besides the tall Zeta?
Yes, absolutely. There's many other lifetimes, of course, as you know, of other species and interdimensionals, especially if you don't originate on planet Earth. You tend to drift around the universe. But the other species that I am very closely linked to and eventually will be a straight channel for, very similar to Bashar, is a being. His name is Khan. And he is a mantis being. Have you ever seen or heard of them or been in contact with them?
I definitely have worked with the mantis being. I was involved with a beautiful female mantis who did a deep spiritual healing with me.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
Yes.
So that is actually my future self. So that is actually my higher self. So one of my future selves. Actually, I came into understanding that it's 200 lifetimes from this lifetime is when I will be that mantis being, which is pretty exciting. So yeah, so that's the other species that I am directly in contact with.
So the mantis you're getting, from what I'm saying, my understanding is they are an advanced species.
Oh, highly, highly advanced.
Mm-hmm.
So the mantis beings reside on the 12th dimension of this universe, which is the highest dimension of this universe anyway. And they oversee the universal flow of things, you could call it. So this Earth at this time, at this awakening, it's very exciting to many different species, including humanity. But for the mantis being, it's just another day, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I really love linking up with my mantis higher self to gain a broader perspective of what's going on in the universe rather than just what's going on here on planet Earth.
So you may be hooking up with your future self.
Yes, I am. I am in direct contact with my future self 200 lifetimes from now.
Phenomenal. All right, we're gonna bookmark it right there and give Osie a chance to tell us a little bit about herself. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So it's your turn, and what would you like to tell our listening audience about yourself and your story and what you're bringing to the conference?
Okay, what I'm bringing. What you guys are talking about right now is very new to me. I've not heard much about this, to be honest. Everything kind of started really happening, or me remembering, the last year or so. So it started for me in January of 2015 when I started having memories. I knew as a child things were happening, but I didn't really understand what was happening. And I don't know if I blocked it out, but what was happening with me in January of 2015 was waking up in the middle of the night and kind of sitting up in my bed, and then all of a sudden feeling this pull from my stomach and opening my eyes and looking up, and I was on a table, like a metal table, and being terrified because I had no idea what was going on, and looking at beings that were looking at me. And you think, okay, this can't be happening or this can't be real, but being fully aware of everything that was going on and looking at the sky and looking at stars and looking at the table, but not being able to move, being absolutely paralyzed, but things happening to my body that were excruciating, so much pain that I felt like I kept passing out and kind of being woken up and passing out from pain, where I would look down. I couldn't really move, but I could look down and see things going into my stomach. So this was happening for quite some time. It would happen maybe 2 or 3 times a week, where all of a sudden I'd wake up in the middle of the night and feel this pull, and all of a sudden I would be on this table. And another time it would happen where something was going inside of me through, sorry to say, like vagina or anus, and things being forced in. Does that make sense?
We've heard this before, but go ahead. We want to hear it from you fresh. We don't want to influence your testimony in any way, so go ahead.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So it would be, again, so much pain that I would be passing out. So there were times when I would be coming to, and I would kind of hear in my head, she's awake, and then all of a sudden I would be back in my bed. or I would, again, you can't scream because you can't make a noise, but you are aware of everything that's going on, and being terrified and being told, it's kind of like what Elizabeth April was saying, it's kind of like you agreed to this. And I'm like, how could I possibly agree to this kind of pain? It was just terrifying. So this went on for several months. And I guess around April of 2015, I would be pulled again. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, pulled onto the ship, and then all of a sudden it seemed like a different type of ship, and I didn't understand what was going on. And then seeing the beings like looking at me and looking into my eyes, and seeing that they looked like, I guess, I don't know a lot about what you guys are talking about, but kind of seeing like to me, what you would see people describe as a gray, but they weren't mean. They had, like human-shaped head, not quite as human, but it kind of went into that round-shaped triangle, slit for a mouth, like a tiny nose, and the eyes were dark, but they weren't black, and they weren't mean. And I didn't get a mean sense, but it was kind of like, you signed up for this. This is what you're here for. And so I guess around April, it wasn't painful anymore, and I didn't understand why. And they're kind of like, it's complete, and I didn't understand what that meant. And then I saw different beings, whereas before I saw these, depending on what time it was, 2 or 3 different gray type beings. And then at this time in April, I was kind of afraid because I saw what appeared to be like a little being, and it looked like it was in a cloak, and I couldn't see a face. It was completely black, and then these red eyes, and I was kind of like scared because I'm thinking, okay, what is this? But then I got a feeling from it that it was there. It was safe. I was okay. And then seeing another being to me that looked like an insect, because it had like an insect-shaped face, insect-shaped arms, and kind of like this pointy face. I couldn't see a mouth. And then I saw this other being that it was very tall, and it didn't look like it had a face. It almost looked like it had this shell that would have come over a face, like a bone type of thing. There may have been something underneath it, but I couldn't really see a face. But again, I wasn't afraid. So that was kind of around April of last year. And then in
let me just stop you, because I want to make sure. The first set of contacts, they talked about you but not to you. But when you started talking about this second group, they're conveying messages to you instead of just talking about you like an object.
Well, they were both in my head. It wasn't like speaking to me. It was like a knowing. It was in my head. So
telepathic, yeah.
Okay. And this time, I guess around August, I was again being pulled out. It was on a regular basis, but just kind of waking up on a ship. I would wake up in this ship, and it was like white, and there were no corners. It was all rounded, and I could see symbols. And then at the end of what seemed like a long hallway, I could see stars, as if sometimes I could see if I was traveling forward or if I was traveling, like I was facing the opposite direction. And I saw what appeared again like insect beings on the outside of this ship. And in August, waking up one morning, again after this experience, and getting out of bed, and the first thing I do when I get out of bed is make my bed. And I was pulling up my comforter, and I looked at my sheets, and I saw this green stuff on my sheet, and I was like, okay, what is that? And the first thing I did was check my pajamas, and I'm like, there's nothing on my pajamas. And right away I kind of got scared, and I'm like, okay, just kind of put it in the washer, didn't think much of it. And again, seeing more insect-like beings. And then there was another time where, again, this happens like several times a month, 2 to 3 times a week at times, where it's like waking up in the middle of the night and leaving what felt like leaving my body because of this strange pull, and then waking up again and seeing different types of beings. And I kind of always like kind of going back to being a child, not really fitting in, not really having any connections, and always as a child going, I want to go home, I don't belong here, and just kind of looking up at the sky and not understanding why I was here, because I didn't fit in with my family. I was kind of always on the outside watching people do things. Yet when this was happening, I kind of felt, okay, it isn't painful anymore. It's kind of exciting. I really think this is where I'm supposed to be. So it was more being aware of my surroundings. And then I don't mean to jump back and forth, but I guess around I guess around the fall, what was happening was I, again, being personal, not getting your period anymore, and then having this sensation around October, November of being pregnant. I know that sounds weird, but if you have been pregnant, you'll know that sensation of like there's a flutter in there. You know that sensation around 3 or 4 months where you know there's something going on inside of you. And I guess it was around Christmas time, waking up in the middle of the night, getting pulled again and feeling like I was on a ship and screaming because I felt like something was going up inside of me again, and just having like a sense of loss, and just kind of hearing them saying they took it. And I'm like, what do you mean you took it? And they're like, it's kind of like it's on a need to know basis, and then boom, you're back in your bed. And right around that time, kind of going back a little bit, feeling that sensation of being pregnant, I noticed, my breast leaking, and like, okay, you're going, okay, I'm almost 46. Is it hormonal? Like, what's going on? Like, but it was like when I was pregnant, it was like milk. I don't know how to describe it, but it was really, really weird. So that's kind of.
Did your tubercles of Montgomery show up on your areolas, the little bumps all around?
It's the breast.
Yes.
Nipples.
And I noticed my doctor had told me when I was pregnant 10 years ago, like I would say to him, I've got these things on my areola. And he's like, oh, that's okay. After you have the baby, they'll disappear. And I noticed them being here again this time, and noticing, like I had said when I went to the conference last year and I spoke to Bob Mitchell, I was saying, I have this red mark. It came in January. I have this mark. It's about the size of a toonie, we call it here in Canada, and it's like right between my breast, and it's still there. So I remember going to the doctor for my physical in May and going, okay, I'm going to point this out, and it not being there, and it being there, like leaving the doctor. And then when I went to see, Bob had invited me to speak at one of his book signings, and going, okay, I'll show Bob, and it not being there, but it's here again. And I remember taking a picture and sending it to Bob, and he's like, that's common, but I don't understand it coming and going. So just a lot of really weird things happening. And recently, I had a couple of health issues over the last couple of years, but being like in my kitchen and just, talking on the phone and just hearing this voice in my head kind of going, go lay down on the couch. And I'm like, okay, so laying on the couch and then seeing this light over my body. And it was kind of like, it's like, when you see the heat coming off the pavement, that vibrating, where it almost looks like that type of sensation. So it was over my head, and I could see it going towards my head, and then I saw it going into my chest and into my stomach, and it lasted for about 30 minutes where I could like almost breathe this light into me, and I felt like it was some kind of a healing. And what I keep hearing is, you signed up for this is what you're here to do, but not having any connection. This again is all new to me. And talking to people, if I heard people talking like this before, I would have walked away from the conversation, because I would be like, okay, that's just too weird for me. I don't understand it. I'm not judging, but it doesn't make any sense. And then to be experiencing it for the last year and remembering, you don't really tell too many people. So that's kind of where I've been the last year. I'm not sure if you have any questions.
Well, with people you did tell, how did they react? Did it give you trouble, or were you just careful about whom you told?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really told many people, and the reason this all kind of came out is really, really strange. I actually, for the last 10 years, have been doing readings as a medium, and it was one of these. I woke up one day, started seeing things, thought I was dying again, not knowing what was going on. So understanding over the last 10 years what it was, and then kind of working with my gift and talking to people. I was doing a reading for a lady, and I spoke to her a couple months later. She wanted to meet with me again. And again, as a medium, I haven't been trained. I didn't take a course. It was just kind of waking up one day and having this gift, but not understanding it, and stumbling from person to person, asking for help and how to kind of direct it and how to make it stronger. And so the lady wanted to meet with me again. So I said to her, I said, there's a lady here in spirit, and she keeps saying her son, and she was saying her son's name. And the lady that I was on the phone with, she was like, no, I don't know anyone with that name. And I said, well, this lady is here, and she's insisting you know her son. So I said, okay, if it doesn't make any sense, I'll see you next week for your reading. So at the end of the reading, I just said to her again, this lady says her son, and you know who he is. And again, I said the name to her, and she went, oh my goodness. She said, that's my sister's son, but he doesn't go by that name. It's actually his, he goes by his middle name. So I said, would you mind giving him my contact information? So she was kind of like, oh, you guys would be a perfect couple. You're both around the same age and you're single. I'm like, no, that's not what this is about. I think I need to contact him. So she gave him my information, and he sent me a quick message, kind of like, I think he kind of thought I was maybe taking advantage of his aunt. And, you know, because people do tend to think that this type of work is fake. And so anyway, I messaged him back with something that his mother had said, and he said, I'll be at your place tomorrow morning. So he showed up, and he was here for about 5.5 hours, and we started talking about this. It was just like I had to talk to him, he had to talk to me, and the conversation went on. And I just said to the guy, I said, how long do you think you've been here? He's like, about an hour. I'm like, we've been sitting here for 5.5 hours, and the information just flowed. So he had contacted me and said, you have to go to this alien cosmic expo. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going by myself. I'm afraid of my own shadow. There's no way I'm going to talk about anything. He's like, you have to be there. And I'm like, well, you go with me. He's like, I can't, you need to go. So it was literally the last hour before the conference was supposed to begin, and I just heard that voice, you have to be there. So I got in my car and I drove, and I was kind of scared because, again, I'm going to a different city, and I'm going to be meeting people that I kind of thought were weird my whole life. And I walked in the door, and everyone was at the front door, and they were kind of all talking to each other. And it was like, again, I didn't fit in. Nobody saw me. I just kind of blended in. And I saw this man down the hallway, and he was selling T-shirts. And I just kind of walked up and was like, hi, is this where I pay to get in? And he's like, no, you passed where you're supposed to pay to get in. So myself, I just got in for free. Don't tell them. So I just said, hi, my name is Osie. And he's like, my name's Dan Silver. And he's like, I sell these T-shirts, these alien T-shirts. And he was like this really cool young man. And so he's kind of like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, just checking it out. So he was like, okay. So we were talking, and I didn't move from that spot. I kind of felt safe around him. So I started explaining a little bit about why I was there. And he's like, okay, you need to meet these people. So he introduced me to a couple of people in the next room, and I talked to them for several hours, and they were very interesting. So I ended up staying the whole day basically at the booth with Dan while he was selling his T-shirts, and kind of telling him a little bit about myself. And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, my whole life I've been into this stuff, and here you walk in with all of this information. So we stayed, we had dinner, and then I ended up meeting people from MUFON, and Dan had introduced me to them, and then the people from MUFON introduced me to a table of people, and they were like, well, tell your story. So I kind of told them my story, because what had also happened this summer was I was at a friend's house farm sitting, and I just, I was farm sitting, and, there's horses and animals outside, and she's got a couple of dogs inside. And I just heard this voice, we're coming tonight. And I'm like, oh God, what does that mean? We're coming tonight. So, my friend doesn't know about this stuff. I've never talked to her about any kind of experiences. So in the middle of the night, I had a lot of trouble sleeping, but I eventually dozed off, but there was no memory when I woke up. So a couple of days later, my friend messages me, and she's like, kind of what was going on at my place when you were there? And I'm like, well, I said, nothing unusual. And she's like, well, you know that I have surveillance cameras around my home, because she's always making sure no one's on her property. So she said, I saw these really weird lights around your car. And I'm like, oh. So she said, I zoomed in on your car, and you could see this beam of light above my car, and it was kind of like going back and forth and then lengthways. And then she's like, you realized your bedroom was above the car? And I'm like, I didn't. She's like, kind of what was going on? So I explained to her my story. She's like, I totally believe in this. And I'm like, well, this is kind of what's been happening over the last year. So that's a little bit about what was happening with me the last year, if that makes sense to you and your listeners. So that
makes a lot of sense. You found the people that were safe for you to
yes.
confide in, and that makes a lot of sense.
That's perfect.
Crazy.
Wow. It's crazy, but it's perfect, and
No,
it's
you think of it. You're sane in a crazy world.
Okay, that makes more sense. So, yeah,
yes,
that's kind of my
definitely.
last year. So, again, this is all new to me. I would have kind of snickered and walked away when I would hear people talk like this because, I mean, I have been practicing mediumship, so I have met a lot of different type of people, and I tend to pull away because sometimes spiritual people can be a little different and off the wall. So again, I tend to cocoon and stay on my own. But I have met some really interesting people that have helped me along the way. And again, hearing that voice in your head and knowing that you kind of know what's going to happen, you know, you kind of get a sense of what's going to happen with the future or with your health or with people's health or with people's pets. Like how do I know that? How does that just come to me naturally? And again, I can't explain it. There's no one in my family who has this. I've not talked to anyone in my family about this. And yeah, just that's my story.
You know, Osie, if you had a hybrid child, what would you want that child to know?
I know this sounds weird, but it's kind of like I'll be there soon. So
Thank you.
I know that sounds weird, but it's just like I feel like something's missing, and my thing is I want to go home. I want to go home. I
Yeah.
don't fit here. I've never fit here, and I just want to go home.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Where's home? If you really reach into your imagination, where do you imagine your real home to be?
As weird as this will sound, in the summer, I didn't mention this. It was one of those hearing that voice, and it's kind of like, okay, you want to go home? We're going to take you home, but it's going to be hard to get there. So I had mentioned this to Bob too, and I think he put it in the book. I didn't read my chapter because I kind of get embarrassed talking about this. So the last thing I want to do is see an interview with me or something written. But what had happened was, again, waking up in the middle of the night, feeling this pull, and I was in space. I wasn't in a ship. I was just a part of space. I was feeling peace. I was looking at the universe. And then all of a sudden, I felt like I was being pulled, and everything kind of turned sideways. Like everything kind of compressed sideways. And I just felt this. I ended up being pulled and kind of being aware of being around this big planet. It almost looked orange, and it looked like Saturn to me because it had this big ring around it. And I was coming around it, and I was in this ship, and the ship was about the size of my body, and it was kind of like a bubble. And as I looked down, I saw my hands, and they weren't my hands, the hands that I have now. They were different hands, and I could see these ships, and kind of things were floating in space. And all of a sudden, I got a glimpse of, I guess, what they would say home was, and then I was pulled back to my body. And it lasted for about a second, but it felt like it took me a lifetime to get there. And for that week, I was out of sorts. I had trouble walking. I was dizzy. I couldn't eat. It was just the weird, I felt like I had been awake for a month. It was just exhaustion. So I think
What
Wow.
they
did you
showed me
what did you
something.
notice about home? What when you noticed home, even for your
Well,
second, what did you notice?
I saw what looked like they look like tubes, like I hate to say floating hotels, but they almost look like cigars or white tubes with, I guess you could say, windows. Some were vertical, some were horizontal, and again, to me, it seemed like things in space. I couldn't see a planet. It was as if I was coming around this planet. I got this glimpse, and then with me again being afraid of all of this, I felt that pull back to my body. So I didn't, it was just almost like for a second I looked down, I saw these hands, and then I saw around this planet, and then I was back in my body.
Elizabeth, do you have any comments or feedback or questions for Osie?
Yes, actually, I have a couple of things. Okay, so I just want to mention to you, Osie, is that you are definitely a part of the hybrid project. Okay? So
Okay.
I'll briefly explain what a hybrid is. Do you know what a hybrid is?
I've heard a little bit about it. I'm getting a little bit of human, a little bit of alien.
Yes, pretty much exactly that. And it's very interesting. You know, they spent a very, very, very long time perfecting the balance between human DNA and extraterrestrial DNA. And the main species that's involved in this is the greys, okay? So I also want to mention here, just with your experience, you were dealing with, especially at the beginning, a lot with the shorter greys. Now, the shorter greys are much more, I want to say, robotic, okay? So there's not a whole lot of empathy that you were feeling from them. There's not a whole lot of emotion coming from them, because they are pretty much like the worker bees out of that species, okay? So the Zetas or the greys, they have three different, species, or different levels within that species. And they usually conduct a lot of the abductions. So you are definitely part of the hybrid project, because we need, surrogate mothers, you could call them, humans, to carry the, fetus of the child. And I will say as well that in a lot of these cases, the mother gets to visit the children. And trust me, if you want to go home, you will be back and forth, but the main thing that you need to understand right now is that it's very, very important for you to be here and to want to be here.
Thanks. I'm just getting sad listening to you.
Yeah, no, and you know what? It's okay, because as being who you are, and I'm sure everyone on the radio right now has been feeling the same feeling of, I want to go home. I don't fit in here. I don't understand the customs. I don't understand the culture. I don't understand the politics or the education system, and that's completely understandable, because this is not your home. But what you need to understand is that because your true family and your true connections and your true home is elsewhere, and that elsewhere is interdimensional, your home is always wherever you are on this planet.
Thank you.
Yeah, so and they will listen to you. You have an open communication. As soon as you let go of that fear, they are here to help you. They are your family. Not so much the shorter greys, but your family is there, and you are part of a huge, huge process of awakening. And once you see your kids or children or child for the first time, you are going to feel complete.
Thank you, Elizabeth April.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
That's great. I was getting, when you were talking about the first part where you were getting a lot of pain,
Yes.
that they were doing some kind of adjusting of your body in preparation to receive the hybrid fetus. And so that's just the impression I got, that they were sorry it was painful, and I'm not sure why it was so painful. I've been through it before. Maybe I've forgotten the pain. Usually they tend to neutralize the pain, so you're not having such an experience. It may be something with your own body and your own makeup. I don't know. Maybe Elizabeth has more clarity on that, but I'm getting something about you're not typical like a full human, that you're something else, and the hybridization process does sometimes take some genetic tweaking of the host body.
The pain is partly a function of fear.
I think
Yeah,
so.
that's the other thing. Pain is a function of fear, yeah.
I think you're right there, because I've always been alone, and again, not fitting in. And fear seems to kind of be the big thing in my life, trying to kind of overcome fear. And I can understand, again, being somewhere and not understanding it, and that fear kicking in, and the pain, because it's always like, why do I have to feel the pain? Why can't you just do what you have to do? So it's kind of like you signed up for this.
So, Osie, do you still feel pain?
No, I didn't feel. I started to get comfortable around April, and then there's no more pain.
Oh,
So
good. That's really good. Okay.
yeah.
Well, Elizabeth, you're not coming in real clear. Can you kind of talk more into the mic or something?
Yep. Is that better? Is that better?
Much better, thanks.
Okay.
Yes, you were fading
Just
away.
putting up the
Okay.
gain.
So, what were you saying before I interrupted you about the mic?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying how good it is that you don't feel any of that pain anymore, because I would definitely agree and say that feeling pain in those situations is more so a mere reflection of the fear that you feel inside. Like I'm almost thinking that experience of that pain was more energetic and emotional than anything. It's a reaction of not understanding what's going on. And that's why pain is, you know what, to be honest, I've done a lot of research on what pain is in this physical world. And all pain is a reaction to a sensation. And that reaction to a sensation causes a memory, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a lot of fear, you are creating at a physical level a lot of pain for yourself. So I'm just really glad that you've overcome that, and I would love to have a conversation with you, Osie, even before the expo. I think we would have a lot to talk about, you know, and I could be one of those people in your life who you can openly talk about anything and everything, because I've been there too. So
thank you. And it's funny because it's almost like the last 10 years of my life, I've just been stumbling and bumping into people because I don't understand what's going on. And it's literally, I hear that voice in my head, you need to be here, you need to go there, you're going to meet this person. And it just happens. And it's like, okay, where am I supposed to be next? It's like, okay, well, I'm not allowed to leave, apparently, can't check out. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I can honestly say that was my low point, I guess, about 10 years ago, where I didn't want to be here. And it was hearing this voice that was so loud, it's not your time. And it's like, okay, if I'm not allowed to leave, you better tell me what I'm supposed to do. So I don't know. It's just been a fumbling for the last 10 years and bumping into very kind people, some very unkind people. But I have met a handful of very kind people. And I'm just very blessed to have them in my life where I can speak openly with them. But again, it's a very few people that I do share this stuff with. So
I just want to mention.
I find it's useful to think that all the experiences you have been orchestrated for your growth and development, and for the growth and development of the cosmos.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. You were going to say.
And I just wanted to mention too, just, you know, with that, is that, Osie, I think the next step for you is taking control of the situation, because you're saying, you know, for the last 10 years it's been, oh, go here, do this, you know, meet this person, and it just seems like maybe part of your fear is the fact that you don't have control over your experiences. And I promise you, these ETs are open for you to gain that control, but you need to let them know that you are in control, right? Because a lot of the times they don't think that humans being in this third physical dimension are powerful at all. So I think the next step for you is owning who you are and why you're here, and then taking control of the situation and saying, okay, well, you can take me this night, but you're not taking me tonight, you know? Just kind of in that way, taking your power back.
Okay. Because with me,
I am the master of my soul, the captain of my ship.
I'm a contactee going back to the crib, so perhaps, you know, I was just so used to it, so the experiences, whatever they might have been, were more conscious, and I didn't have the pain reflex that you did. I'm curious, for both of you, have you considered that you may have been having contact earlier, and that for some reason it was blocked until you were older?
Yes, definitely, because I know from the time I was a child, and I mean, being like 4 and 5 years old, and just like I said, knowing that I didn't fit here, and waking up in the middle of the night with the same pull, but being back in my body, not knowing where I was. Like I there was no pain, there was no memory, but I knew I wasn't in my body that night. So, but didn't understanding it, and just thinking, well, maybe this is what everybody feels like when they go to bed, and not understanding it. Growing up in a Catholic family, you didn't talk about this kind of stuff, and definitely wouldn't bring up mediumship, that's for sure. And I that's my experience anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the exact same way. I don't think I was taken as often, maybe as you, but I was definitely taken. And I think because my younger self was so fearful of those experiences, I blocked a lot of those experiences off. So a lot of my childhood is blacked out, you know? Mm-hmm.
So, are you open to exploring those things now?
You know what? I have been.
Awareness?
I have been open to past life regressing myself or having someone do that on me to go back into my childhood. But then I also got a very strong voice in my head saying that leave the past where it is. It is not necessary to go back there. And I listened to that voice. So
I need to listen more.
We find there's always resonances of the here and now in this very moment, in your childhood, in your past lives, and in your future lives. Mm-hmm. We resonate on certain frequencies, and you can access different parts of that long chain of experience, depending on whether it serves you and humanity to do so.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we're coming up on the break in about 30 seconds here, and I'd like you to think while we have a brief intermission of the questions you might want to ask each other after our break. And we have another hour to go, and we can go round table. And I'm getting a horrible feedback again. Maybe Sean can figure that out in our break. Okay. I think that's about it for this half of the show. Here we go. There is our music. Thank you, love and blessings. See you in 3 minutes. Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I'm your host, Janet Lessin, with Dr. Sasha Lessin and Elizabeth April and Osie. We're talking about the alien abduction contact the experiencer phenomena. Before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on freedomslips.com and donate what you can. $1, $5, $10, $15, $20, whatever you can donate is greatly appreciated, and we do thank you very much for your donation. Dr. Lessin, where'd you go? All right. I don't know. He went somewhere. So what I'd like to do this second half of the show is start with Elizabeth, and maybe you have a question that you can ask all of us that can all answer or participate in. I am an experiencer. Dr. Lessin is a therapist. He's worked with thousands of people. I've become a hypnotherapist as well, and we've been doing regression therapy. Oh, here, Dr. Lessin, what did you want to say?
I'm sorry, I was running out to get my coffee, and this is incredible. I really want to thank you both for your courage and being examples of saying what's going on with you. And I'm telling you, there's thousands of people that are resonating at some level to greater and greater consciousness as a result of the kind of sharing you're doing. I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So we're gonna start with Elizabeth, and she's going to pose a question or a topic or something that we can all address, and then we'll all answer, and then we'll switch to Osie. She'll ask a question, and we'll go round table, probably spending about 15-20 minutes on each question as we get through the four of us. It's your turn. Elizabeth, take it away.
Okay, great. So I guess a question that I always love asking my clients, and I could ask you as well, all three of you. And the question would be, everyone here who is incarnated on the planet Earth at this time is here for a reason. We are all pieces of a bigger puzzle of this grand awakening. And I'm always very curious, even though, we all have psychic abilities, we're all very sensitive, but what particularly is your mission here? So I want to pose that question to each and every one of you, just in kind of like a nice brief summary. Like, why are you here? What is your piece of the puzzle?
Okay, we'll go to Osie, then Sasha, then Janet.
Okay.
You're asking me? I don't know why I'm here.
Yes.
I don't know why. I just one day and I'm told this is what I signed up for, and I'm still waiting for some answers.
Okay, Osie, can I just shed a little light on your purpose?
Sure.
Okay. So when you were talking and telling your story, I was very intrigued and very amazed. And maybe it wasn't just the content of your story that I was amazed at, but how human you are in telling your story. And really, I think you getting up on stage and telling your story exactly the way that you did on this radio station is going to help so many people, because when I channel and when I give information, a lot of the times it is very, it's sometimes it can be inconceivable for just a human. And what we need here is other humans that are going through this stuff, having no idea what's going on, who can really share their experience with everyone else so that it's no longer a weird thing to be pulled up onto a spaceship. So I think that's really your purpose here, is to spread truth, knowledge, and awakening through your own story, through your own experience. And you getting up on stage at the Alien Expo is an amazing start for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like, here,
Sasha,
get her up
what's your
there.
meaning and purpose? Get up there, yes.
Okay, I remember my father reading a story to me about Abu Ben Adam. It was a poem. Who the angel of the Lord came to Abu and I said, I have here those who love the God. And is my name on that, says Abu? No. Well, just put me down as somebody who loves my fellow beings. Next day, the angel came back, and Abu Ben Adam's name was number one. And all my life, I've had visions. I had recurrent dream of Israelis and Egyptians way before the peace talks, burying their weapons of war and covering them up with earth and dancing their folk dances on it. And I've been moved to study with Zachariah Sitchin. My mission is to remind us of the brotherhood of all beings, and my mission is peace on earth.
Wow, that's amazing. Are you writing something? I just want to ask you really quick.
Every day.
Yeah, okay. Are you writing a book, or have you published a book already?
Yes, I've written several books, Anunnaki, Gods No More, and I publish, I reach about, probably 1 million people every month on my sites, Enki Speaks and Facebook, and I can't, I'm so fascinated. I want to say, it's not just people going up. There's a whole life inside the earth, Agartha,
Yes.
and many people have visitations there too. It's really way more complex than just up.
Absolutely.
And I just I observed, I think we have 4 generations here. Elizabeth, you're 23, and then Osie, did you say you're 46 or something?
I am. Thank you.
And I'm 62, and Sasha will be 76 on July 9th. So
July 9th. I'm July 8th.
Oh my goodness. Amazing.
No, look at us, Cancer babies.
The Cancer babies.
That's the gift of empathy that comes with being a Cancer.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm an Aquarian, and it's my age.
Yeah, it is.
I was born 9 days after Oprah, so I got a lot of those
Nice.
astrological influences. It's my mic that's doing the feedback. Okay.
It is.
Anyway, I'll put it down there. I came here for this time. I came in conscious. I had contact. Like you, Elizabeth, I kind of had to block off things because I was afraid of the reaction of humans to not being human.
Yep.
I had that stranger in a strange land phenomenon, like both of you, not fitting in, realizing this isn't my home, or at least this is the main home. It's one of my homes, I guess, as a multidimensional being, but it's a very primitive level zero civilization, and I could never really quite understand how we could be so hateful and warlike.
Agreed.
And so one of my greatest influences was Star Trek. I was 12 years old. So 50 years ago, Star Trek began, and I jumped up and down in the eclipse because I went, that's where I came from. And then, of course, on this path, we've seen a lot of changes. It looked like we were getting there, and then, of course, 911 hit and our reality got hijacked. But we can't give up. So I'm one of the trailblazers there with all the rest of you saying contact is real. We're totally sane. And as we each grab the mic and tell our stories, we wake up humanity. So I do radio shows 5, 6, 7 days a week, just getting, one person after another, one whistleblower and contact the experiencer, author, researcher, to tell his or her piece of the puzzle and get it out to the world. And I'm going to as many conferences as I can. I'm going to be at Alien Contact Expo. Dr. Lessin and I are going to do the experiencer group with a bunch of other facilitators and experiencers. And then Saturday we're doing a presentation on the Anunnaki. And I will be telling my story on Sunday, which it's very, you have to be very humble and vulnerable and willing to tell the truth. And you kind of melt down to your core like a phoenix rising. But when you get through that, it's just an amazing experience. I don't know if you've told your story before, Elizabeth, on a stage, but Osie, welcome to the club. I'm sure there are millions more that are going to get up on that stage or come on the radio shows and tell their tale.
Yeah, one of my teachers, Dr. Carl Rogers, said, the more I think I'm only talking about Carl Rogers and nobody else in the whole world, the more universal I am.
Okay, any comments, feedback on this round 1 before we go to round 2 of questions?
I'm just listening, to be honest. Again, this is all new to me, so I'm just kind of absorbing it right now. So I'm just kind of listening, if that's okay for now.
That's totally fine. Elizabeth, you have a lot of wisdom. What would you like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's so nice, joining a community of people who have been working towards this same goal and this same mission their entire lives. So it's really nice to link up with that same community. As you know, Osie, it can be very difficult to find people around, especially, the fact that we're only an hour apart from each other it means that we should join our own community, so.
I think so, because there are a lot of people you can talk like this with, and
absolutely,
like I said, I've met a couple of people, but I tend to pull back when people start to get a little flaky, and I get kind of scared. Again, there's the fear and not trusting a lot of people, and I'm totally okay. You're like not even an hour away.
Yep.
You ride.
Yeah.
Do you have a support group there in your part of the world?
MUFON, maybe?
Well, MUFON isn't real experiencer friendly. I find that
nuts and bolts.
Grant Cameron has created a big experiencer group in his part. He's on the other side of Canada.
I met Grant at the conference last year, and he was very kind. I did share his story, and he was very kind. I actually do have his contact information, but as a busy mom and trying to take care of life, there's not a lot of me time, so I haven't really had a chance to reach out to some of the people that I did meet last year. So time to start doing that.
Right. Okay. Osie, do you have a question to ask everybody?
No, I don't. I don't have a question. I apologize. I am just listening right now, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
We can pass. Sasha.
Okay, if you look at the universe as a holographic thing where everything that is in the universe resonates within each one of us to varying degrees depending on our angle. And reality is like the elephant that we grasp from many, many different angles. And so it's possible, for example, to go all the way and identify with the thread of the creator of all, or the life of anybody. When 10 people say they're each Abraham Lincoln, 9 of them aren't lying. They're just accessing different aspects of the Abraham Lincoln that's in all of us. And if
Makes sense.
you have this kind of an attitude, then you realize that nothing is alien to any of us. We're all of it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So what's your question?
So how do you relate to those concepts is my question.
How I would relate, it makes complete sense to me. I still think that I think we're all one. I think we're all connected. If I can, if I can tap into your energy or someone's energy that I'm doing a reading for, where where does that information come from? There has to be a connection. There has to be a oneness. There has to be a unity. And I believe we're all connected. I believe we're all having the same experience. I believe it's just branches of an entire, a whole, a being, an entity. I'm not sure how you would describe it, but I believe we are all connected, one. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess just to kind of put my 2 cents in there, I would say that it gets very complicated and very convoluted because there's so many different streams of reality. There's so many different time zones that are going on, and we are simultaneously existing here as we are simultaneously existing across the universe.
Yes.
So it definitely makes sense to know that we are all part of the same thing, the same one entity or source energy. And it's just very hard to describe or explain sometimes how we are all the same. And especially when you go into past lifetimes, a lot of the way I pretty much explain how we progress, because we are all coming from the same energy, is that every dimension has a certain amount of lessons that we need to learn from that dimension. So we incarnate ourselves into different beings, different entities, even animals, in order to learn those lessons. So at the end of the day, at the end of this lifetime, at the end of this existence, we are all learning the same lessons, and they are all repeated. And if you don't learn that lesson in that lifetime, then you're going to repeat that lifetime in a different form, learning the same lesson. So yeah, so it's just a very interesting, like I said, complex concept that we're all sharing the same energy, and yet in this society, we love to marginalize and categorize and box up pretty much anything and everything we can possibly get our hands on. So we love to separate, although the truth is that we are all one in the same energy.
I agree, and I like the way you put it.
Yeah.
Paul Radin is an anthropologist who found that people in every single society, from people that live in very simple conditions to complex civilizations, always have people that are able to bridge the separations that they're instructed in, and to see that what they thought was the other is really part of them. And what we have is a temporary, what's called the incest of each level of consciousness, thinking, oh, this is all there is. Now I'm an individual, or now I'm a member of a couple or a nation or something, and then there's the other. But there's no other, and you transcend the incest, and you become a broader and broader person until ultimately you're able to identify with every level. And it's the great advantage of things like this conference we're going to, that we have a place where we can start to see our oneness with every life, with every being, with everything there is.
Yeah. Sounds beautiful.
Yeah. So I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think it's an incredible panel, and I have been blessed to have moments where I've gone out of body and I've traveled all the way to I call it the cosmic high five with Source. And for my convenience, Source manifests as a happy face, a big smile, and a big hand, and I go, yes, hi. I find that I don't stay there because I do have a mission, things I'm supposed to do here. So I come back into this form, this avatar, and I wake up and I do another thing, another day. It's just another day, but each day is different and interesting and magical because we're living at the time when we are going to experience, or we are experiencing, the grand awakening of consciousness. And it's so exciting to be alive right now. And it's just, I feel blessed that everybody's here on this show talking about their personal choices and their beliefs and their truth. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. All right,
Yes.
I'll just kind of go popcorn here. Who has a question? Do you have a question
Well,
or a comment?
I think it's useful to imagine that we have all made contracts in this or other life to do what we're doing, and so that if you don't, and for our listeners out there, I'd like you to do the same thing, to say, just what would be your purpose in agreeing to the experiences you had? What is the purpose for you, and what is the overall purpose of this agreement that your soul has made?
Yes, exactly. I really do agree with you in saying that is one of the number one things that people can really start asking themselves to come to the right conclusions, to the right answers. And the number one thing that I actually promote to people is to start asking questions, because it seems like we just don't ask enough questions in our lives. And the second we do, the second that we pose a question to the universe is going to answer us in one form or another. So really, all we have to do is ask, and we will receive those answers.
I hear that all the time.
Yes.
Yes, I hear that all the time.
Yeah. And actually, I have another question, and this is going out to all of you. And Osie, this is specifically an issue that you might actually be coming into as well, coming into all of this knowledge and information about who you are, is how do we get away from the categories and the semantics that we use in this society? Because I talk to many spiritual people, and I'm pretty ingrained in that society so far. And everyone has a different perspective of, who's this ET and what their purpose is, and you don't have it right because it's like this. And everyone thinks that their definition of what's going on is the truth.
Exactly.
And I'm just struggling to really explain this information to people, but in a way where they don't hang on to the words that I use, if that makes sense. So do any of you have a good suggestion or advice or anything that can be tangible that we can start applying, that we can be as informative as possible, but also as general as possible, so that people don't hang on every word that you say?
One thing I suggest is, instead of just doing talk, every time you talk and use language, it's like the menu instead of the meal. So I suggest dancing, doing music, doing art. In our training in centering, we use sand trays, where you take little toys and you make mandalas. Go out to nonverbal forms, and I guarantee you more things will emerge. Psychedelics can be very useful in the right circumstances, and things that are nonverbal. In holotropic breathing, we play powerful evocative music, and you breathe deep and fast to this music so that you create a state of an altered state, and you just allow the experiences to come. Then after you've had the experiences, you draw a mandala to represent your experiences, and as you look at the mandala, it will give you more and more information. Those are a few of the little tricks that I use.
Okay.
And when I was, when I was 4, I was taken on board a mothership, and I was shown 24 different multiverses, which are just a sample of the endless amounts of multiverses, realities, potentialities for where we as consciousness can be, quote unquote. And so the problem we get into as human beings, as humans being, is that we try to have the truth and the reality and fit everything into a box. But the reality is that there are at least 7.5 billion realities when you take just the humans, and then you have all the other species. And so every person has their own idioverse. And if we just find a place where we can respect each person's idea of what reality is, what existence is, and for certain things that we need to do or accomplish, like taking out the garbage or getting to a conference, agree in consensus reality, But if we stop arguing semantics and just say, well, that's your reality and this is my reality, and then we become the chooser instead of playing victim, like, I can't help it because this planet is this way and that way. Yes, you can. And you can shut off the television, you can meditate, you can go into your reality and walk your talk as consciousness may manifest in form. And as you walk, like Jesus, he's one prime example. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. And he was somebody who came here from a higher realm and just said, here's how you can walk your talk and be in the planet and be effective. And so be effective. Life is short. We only get to dance for a short while. And if we come together, we will break that reality and be in the Star Trekian reality and even beyond, where we're physically immortal beings choosing where we want to exist, in what form, at what time, on what planet, in what realm or dimension.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
on to somebody else.
Yeah.
I can tell you what I've been doing.
Okay.
What I've noticed, again, this may seem very basic to everyone, but every now and then when you do kind of connect with someone who does believe in this, and I do find that, sometimes it does come out during readings or it does come out in conversation with people, I kind of give people the opportunity to sit in front of me and just go, okay, to me it's not all about, again, it's about that oneness and that connected, and not always using your voice or how things are supposed to work. So I'll just say, okay, I just want you to be comfortable, and what are you thinking? What's an impression you're getting when you're sitting in front of me? And just don't be afraid to share what you're sensing. And so someone will throw out a word or a phrase, or I'm seeing this, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. And just kind of playing back and forth with people to get used to their intuition or their psychic ability or their alien experiences, and just kind of setting that comfortable place where people can be honest and open, because this is a scary thing to be talking about to people. And not everyone is going to not buy into it, but people, again, like I was saying to you, like I was like, I would kind of turn away from people. And whenever anyone would talk about this, I'm like, oh, here it goes. Here come, the weirdos or the flakes or the crazies or whatever. But when you're sitting in front of someone and you truly believe this, like I truly believe this is real, and I'm sure everyone here believes this is real, and just giving people the opportunity to connect on a level that we don't normally connect with. And I really think it's important for people to be comfortable enough to, I guess, practice their intuition and their psychic abilities, that words are not always necessary, and kind of opening that up, getting that connection working, and we're talking about, the state of the planet and the state of the earth and what's going on, and with all of the negative energy, and just kind of connecting one person at a time, and just that person going, oh, wow, I have these tools. I'm going to go connect with another person and share my learnings and my teachings. And just, that's kind of how I do it. I know it sounds kind of basic or rustic, but just allowing people that comfortable space to go, you know what, I'm sensing this, I'm feeling this, I'm smelling this, and just going, you know what, it's okay, let's work with that. And sometimes it lasts for a minute, 5 minutes, but I've worked with people, and again, it's not like, ooh, there's a fee. It's just going, you know what, just, my time's valuable, your time's valuable, but we have to help each other, and just go, it's okay to sit in front of someone and practice this, because we have to kind of, I don't know, I almost feel like we have to do this. This is something we have to do. We have to connect with everyone and change the energy. And it just seems like, you're like, okay, why are you here? I just keep hearing, like, how may I serve? I'm here to heal. I'm here to help. Okay, make it a little more, make it bigger for me. I need to know a little bit more than that. And it's kind of like on a need to know basis right now. I'm like, okay, I'm going with that. So that's kind of how I do it. I know that, again, that does sound kind of basic, but just giving
I like it.
A chance to speak, be comfortable.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Another way that we use that I find really useful is you sit opposite another person that you can feel open and trusting with. If you're lovers, you sit beyond with one of your legs over the other person's hip. You put your foreheads together and you look upward into each other's eyes.
Yes.
Until the eyes seem to merge. Yes. That's the third eye appears. And then you go through opening each one of your chakras. In Sanskrit, we go Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Ham, Om, opening each successive chakra and allowing your souls to merge. And that's when things can really come out. That's a way that I found quite effective as a
Wow,
tantra.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and I just wanted to mention one other thing that I do as well, which is when I am explaining some kind of information to someone, I always make sure that I define my terms. So, I mean, a lot of the terms that I define, you can't really find in Webster's dictionary, but I channel what the definition is based on the context that I'm using that term in, because if you pose expand your consciousness to the greater of humanity, they're going to have no idea what the word consciousness even means. Right? So it's very important that when you are explaining something that you define what you are explaining. And you can just say, hey, look, this is my definition. This is the way that I perceive this. And I'm hoping that this perception that I have may help you out, kind of thing. So that's kind of one of the techniques that I use as well. Also channeled through painting, as you mentioned. I guess I never really linked it to sharing the information in a very different way, but that's pretty much exactly what it is. I go into such a deep channel during these paintings that I actually have no idea what I'm painting until the painting is done, which is pretty cool.
Wow,
yeah,
that's great. You're free of language then. You've gotten past it. That's
absolutely.
What kind of things are you painting?
So they all have a different message. Like I have one that is on one end of the painting, I have a businessman in a suit. And he's black and white because that's what humanity is black and white. You're either right or you're wrong. You either have money or you don't. And then on the other end of the painting, connected with a DNA strand, I have a representation of a reptilian being. And these two beings are connected. And that painting is called Humanity's Hijacking. So half of my paintings are about politics and how corrupt society is. And then, of course, the other half of the paintings are about how we can expand our consciousness and open our third eye. So it's really like whatever society needs to know in the moment. Is it that society is corrupt and people need to understand the corruption, or is it that we need to go beyond the corruption and start understanding what's beyond, politics, right?
So what do you think the reptilians have done? What's your cosmology? You said that they hijacked him.
It's very interesting because I've gone back and forth with this species, and I have directly connected to them in the Middle Earth, where a lot of them reside in this fourth dimension. And yeah, so just like any species, there are good and there are bad. Okay, reptilians. They have been here before humans, so they believe that this Earth is theirs, and they have been fighting to take it back for a very long time. So I don't want to necessarily call them bad because I don't like singling any species out and calling them bad or negative, but they definitely are not here specifically to help out humanity. They're more here for their own internal gains. So I have experienced reptilians who have shapeshifted into humans in order to really throw off humanity. And a lot of these shapeshifters come in the forms of, TV reporters and politicians and priests even and things like that. So you can pretty much find them in every aspect of society. But if you concentrate on them, you will encounter them. And if you concentrate on conscious awakening, then you encounter conscious awakening. So it's really whatever your reality you want to create.
So have you encountered them in 3D reality, or were you interdimensional on your astral
I was
form?
in the astral plane when I went to go visit them. And I went to this, fourth dimension where they reside, and they were all very, dark, shadowy kind of figures when I saw them. And there was a huge group of them. And I went with about 16 other light workers, and we all joined in this astral realm. And we actually went there to send them a message. And I want to say that this happened about a year ago. No, yeah, maybe about a year and a half ago. And I went down there to send them a message, and the message was that we are fighting back, that we are not going to allow this takeover to happen. And obviously they didn't like that very much, but we ended up getting out of there with spreading that message to them. They weren't very happy about that, and but other than that, that's kind of, yeah. So I've been mingling with them for many years now, and they're a very interesting species to connect with.
You have a question?
Well, it's just an observation. We've interviewed people that have told us about the rescue at Dulce from where there was a interplanetary brothel with the captive humans being used in all kinds of terrible ways. And
Yes.
Mark Richards and others reported that when President Carter sent his own Delta Force in, what made the rescue successful was the help of a reptilian who, with his craft, actually assisted in the rescue. So there's every kind among the
Absolutely.
reptilians.
Absolutely, and that's actually information that I recently came into. I went from a really big fear of reptilians probably a couple of years ago to now understanding that there are just as many good as there are bad in that species. So, like
Right.
any
I've
species.
encountered good reptilians, and at first, when I was very young and I encountered, and it was a male reptilian, I was terrified.
Yep.
And as I got older and I reflected, how you keep revisiting something over and over and over, and I actually did some therapy on this and revisited just reflection. And I realized it felt at the time that I was contacting him that he was trying to suck my soul out of my third eye chakra, my crown chakra.
Oh wow.
But in hindsight,
Yeah.
what he was actually trying to do is communicate with me telepathically.
Yes.
And his level, his vibratory frequency is different than I was used to the communication with grays and other beings, that it felt like I was dying.
Yeah.
But as I got older and was able to adjust to it just felt fine. It was, once again, the pain level was a reflection of my fear. And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
now I've made peace with this fellow and came to the same conclusion that there's good and bad in every species, from human to reptilian,
And there's good and bad in each of us.
in each of us,
Absolutely.
right? We're very
And if you
complex
could take the
individuals.
bad and take it to its highest vibration, for example, let's take rage. You might have a rageful impulse, but if you say, part of me that's rageful, why are you so angry? What do you really need? And usually you'll find out what you need is appropriate assertion or something like that. So that even things that at their lower vibration seem like they're deleterious, if you go to the level of universal needs, you get to something that's compatible with the person's ecology and the ecology of the universe.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
wanted to revisit the breeding program, the hybrid program. I was shown. I'm one of my primary dominant incarnations is an Anunnaki, and when I was shown my hybrid children, they were a mix of myself, some of my human lovers, and then that material was enhanced by primarily Anunnaki, and then they would show them to me. And when I saw my son, which has my husband Sasha's DNA in it, and I saw him in all the ages he was. It was like time was nothing, and they showed me him as an infant to a toddler, to a teenager, to a young man, to an adult. And it was I was just overwhelmed with this sense of love and understanding of this person that was part of my genetics. Some people are being used not being used, but are a part of the hybrid program with mantis, and I have a friend that has a reptilian child. Of course, there's the gray one, which is the most popular and known. So what do you think is going on with this hybrid program? What's your theory? What's the purpose? Why humans? we're kind of a weak species when you think about it. We can't even go out in the sun without getting burned. Oh, we age and die. Any idea what the purpose of this is, the hybrid program?
Well, it's very interesting. I've spent a lot of time asking my guides and my higher self of what's going on, why planet Earth, why are so many species amalgamating on planet Earth at this time. It's absolutely baffling, and it's actually really cool. So really, us as humans, we are quite weak, you could call it, very lower dimensional, but we are, to begin with, an experiment of multiple different species. And I think those species, well, I know that those species are still around to really see us advance in a particular way. So every species that is around planet Earth right now is kind of here for different reasons. There are particular species who are specifically here for the awakening. Some are here for technology transfer. Some are here to, save their species, and that's why they're involved in a hybrid project. I am specifically overseeing the Zeta hybrid project. So I know, of course, that there are other hybrids out there, but specifically I'm here for the gray human hybrids. And the purpose for the entire project, the purpose actually for humanity, is to see if we can advance at an exponential rate. And to be honest, that's exactly what we've been doing. Of course, we have had a lot of help, but this hybrid project is meant to really reform our society in a multitude of different ways so that we can expand our consciousness and live here in peace and harmony. And that's pretty much the consensus of every light worker that I've spoken to, is that they are here for peace, harmony, and truth. So that's really what we're bringing to the table here as just humans. And we're really setting the standard for these hybrids to come through, because a lot of them don't even have the capacity for fear, which is one of the things that they ruled out. So these hybrids are very interesting. They're the best of both worlds. They're the best of the humans, the best of the Zetas, and I'm sure that goes the same for any other species who are hybrids as well. So
Beautiful.
The hybrid project is pretty much just here to advance us as fast as possible.
I can say that from my studies of the Anunnaki, that one of the reasons they use so many Homo erectus genes, Homo erectus is to adapt their genome to Earth to make workers. But the Homo erectus have called attention to themselves when they were releasing other animals that were in the traps of these big 9 to 12 foot guys from the planet Nibiru who came here to get gold. And there are makers, the geneticists, Nimma, Enki, and Ningishita, said, we hope that these creatures that we're going to create will do better than we did. We almost killed our own population off with thermonuclear war.
Yep.
And these creatures love, they're compassionate.
Yeah.
This is what we need. We need them. They need us.
Yeah.
We aren't insignificant. We are a part of a great experiment in passion and compassion harnessed for the mutual good of all.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
Totally.
And Bigfoot's still with us, absolutely, and they are a psychic, open species that coexist with us at this very moment all over the surface. And there's a huge population inside the Earth that has regular contact back and forth. The descendants of the Nazis who are no longer our hostile enemies go to our universities and are active in trying to reform our governance. It's all here. We have every hope of having a full-on Aquarian age. And this conference that we're all going to is one of the sparks of the fire that we're going to arise from like a phoenix.
Yes, I'm so excited.
So, have any of you encountered any beings from the inner earth, from the hollow earth people?
Okay, so I've astro traveled. I have asked to go in the physical realm to inner earth, and so far they have not taken me. Not very pleased about that, but yes, I have astro traveled down there to inner earth. I believe that there's a couple of different subsections of inner earth, and I've been to one city, and there's actually a large, I don't know, there's just not one species down there. There are many, many, many species. It's almost like Toronto, but for like all different species instead of just humans, you know? It's really cool.
That's Toronto.
Yeah, so and I didn't really stay for a very long time when I astral traveled down there, but I just saw the diversity and I'm like, okay, I want to be down here. And I did see a lot of humans walking around as well, which was pretty cool. So,
Yeah. Oh, is that Elizabeth?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Osie,
That was Elizabeth. Yes.
have you been to the inner earth, or where have you been? On ship? Do you go to other planets?
You know what?
In space?
I would say yes. I have never been inner Earth. It's been different planets. It's been on a ship. It's being in space, just being space, being a part of space. And I do on a regular basis also astral travel, where I will be in animals. I will be, again, I'll wake up at a certain time. I feel this pull from my body. I will see myself going through my home to the roof, and all of a sudden I feel a pull again, and I am inside of a crow or a hawk, some type of bird. I'm flying with other animals or other birds, and it's just being aware of things. I have been just almost like, again, with the astral travel, not in form, where I have at one particular time this past summer, I was astral traveling and I didn't know where I was going. And I remember being like over the ocean and seeing this ship. And to me, I don't mean like an alien ship, but to me it looked like almost like it was like a ship, like a military type of ship, and they were sinking it. And I knew that there were harmful things on this ship, and they were trying to sink it. And to me, it was like radioactive, toxic materials that they were trying to hide. And all of a sudden, it was as if there was something saw me. It was an energy like myself, but it was not a positive one, and it pushed me back. It's like, you're not supposed to be here. And I ended up back in my body. And I'll be, again, astral traveling, where I will be with people. Like I've had friends going on vacation and telling me stories and going, wow, did you experience this or did you experience this? And I'm like, how could you possibly know that? And just kind of going, yeah, it's kind of like I was there with you while it was happening, and just out of my body. I spent a lot of time astral traveling, and it's weird with the astral travel because the fear kicks in, and as soon as you try to see with your eyes and the fear kicks in, you lose it. You disconnect.
Yeah, you're right back into your body.
Yeah. And again, it's all new to me. It's not like anyone's ever told me what it was, or I've taken a course or read a book. It's just trial and error, and hoping that I can stay a little bit longer. But I've experienced, to me, I find the most incredible thing, it's maybe a little off topic, but is being in the body of a hawk or a crow, and seeing through their eyes, and seeing the way they would see, the peripheral vision, almost seeing to the back of your head, and seeing everything around you, and just being a part of nature, and wondering again, why am I here? Why am I doing this? How am I able to do this? So very different slightly, but again, with the astral travel, again, being in space and part of space is very fascinating as well.
Cool.
I've come across a lot of this when people will, in a regression or a holotropic session, will say, I'm a female lion and I feel my hunger in the back of my neck. You feel the hunger in the back of your neck. I go and look up lions. That's where they feel it. Or I'm a whale and I'm holding up my baby so that it won't drown. And stuff I don't know. And yet this is so real that they have information that they didn't ever cognitively come across, and yet they've got it. So it's so obvious they've really crossed it's not unusual at all in the kind of work I do to hear just what you've said. A lot of people have those kind of experiences.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's fascinating.
And
Oh, sorry.
I actually travel. That's okay. We're just flowing.
Yes.
We're getting up. We have about 10, 11 minutes left. I astrally travel all the time and doing it all my life. And I went down into like this underground city world and I blacked out. And I think, I married my hypnotherapist. I think it would be great to explore that to see if we get any more information. But I can't bring back all the information because they say it's not time, it's not time. But I've been doing that for years and years and years. I would come out of my body, go down to the living room, and I'd stand on the edge of the couch and I'd jump out the window and fly all night. I met other people.
Yes.
I had 3.5 years of astral sex with a man who was an adept.
Hello.
And we were it was wonderful. Wow. It was like, I'm in this very conservative world, and here we are. It was great. We fell madly in love, by the way, and I moved all the way to Hawaii for this man. It wasn't my husband, and he's great. My husband doesn't have a jealous bone in the body. What else did I want to say? So the remote viewing, yes, when you're remote viewing and they see you seeing them, yeah, some of them can push you right back into your body. I have another job at night. I go to this other city. I know this other planet. I know where to go, where to turn right, where to turn left. Down there is the ruins. Over there is the bazaar where you can, shop, but we don't use money. It's just whatever you want. And all this stuff going on. And I come back here and I go, honey, I was just working all night. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but it's got some kind of office and this and that. I have all these people. So we're having simultaneous lives. Oh, do you ever wonder where your cat goes when it's sleeping for 20 hours a day? It's having a simultaneous life somewhere.
It's reporting.
Oh, yeah, it's spying on us and reporting. Okay. And then I saw the dragon. So I was in a ritual in Johnson Atoll. This was 3D. I was taken out of my bed. They took my boyfriend at the time. They put him on the metal table. Do you ever wonder where do they manufacture those metal tables? Everybody gets beyond. And somewhere they're making them. Anyway, so he's on the table, and then I get to go down into the underground world, which goes from the artificial, military base down into the natural caverns. And to make a long story short, there were about 1,000 Anunnaki there. There were, Greys. There were other species there too. But, there were 1,000 Anunnaki, and there was a big cavern that opened up. When I stood in the light, I had to go stand in this circle of light. And when I stood there, the wall faded, and there was a giant. And she said that she's our mother. And she says, I know that we don't look alike, but we share our DNA, and that she is our mother, and that she loves us. So I hope that's real. It was a shared memory, and I came back with it, and I was forever changed. And I felt like I was in the presence of divine love, universal consciousness, and it stayed with me all these years. That was in 1997. And it actually cleared the way for me to get out of an inappropriate relationship and find my beloved Sasha. We've been together 19 years now, so
wow,
magical times, magical things happen. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's. We got like 8 more minutes. Who wants to share? Burning shares. What's hot? Okay. One of you two ladies, Elizabeth or Osie?
Osie. No, I just found it interesting. You talked about the remote viewing because
yes.
that end to me was very new. And again, seeing other things that sense you and see you and having that negative energy pushing you, I just find that very scary and fascinating at the same time that, you can astral travel and remote view in the future and in the past. It's not just the present, because I've sensed that I have gone astral traveling and been in a future time and went, wow, like months later or years later going, I was here. How was I here? How is it I can see how to get here or direct myself through this building and that, again, it's all new to me, but it's fascinating. And I find it interesting talking to other people who have who are able to do this. So I just thought I'd put that out there.
I'm curious about your childhood and what was your family structure? You said it was Catholic, or did you have siblings?
I did. I didn't come from a very I was in a very close family. Not a lot of love. It's not that. I think back then I think parents were a lot different. It was kind of like, you went to work, you did your job. Kids were to be seen and not heard. So you didn't really have a voice growing up. And I didn't really relate to them. I had 3 brothers, and I didn't really relate to them. I didn't understand them. And again, just kind of always being that observer, that person that kind of blended into the background. So it was never very happy or loving or nurturing. So I tended to, I guess, take care of myself and kind of spent most of my life on my own, to be honest. Again, I don't know.
Did you ever marry or have children?
I did. I didn't marry. And again, this will sound weird, but I was in a relationship. It wasn't a very healthy or loving relationship. And I just heard this voice, and it's kind of like it's time. And I spent the night with my partner at the time, and that was I don't mean my partner at the time, but I mean it was a 10-year relationship, but it was a very unhealthy. So it was like I knew that my daughter had to be here. For some reason, she was supposed to be here. And I mean, I had issues conceiving for, we thought we were going to be cat people. And just basically that night I knew she was coming. And after, the event, I was pregnant, and she had to be here, and the relationship then ended. And my daughter does see things. She does see things even more clear than I do. She sees, she doesn't understand it. She's afraid of it, but I do talk to her about it quite often so that she's not as fearful. With me, when I saw things, I was terrified. But I just want to give her the opportunity to be able to ask them questions. Okay, what is it you're seeing? Talk to them, ask them questions. Are they happy? Are they sad? Whereas with me, when I would see things as a kid, I would just freak out, and then they would shut down or disappear. And you know how you were saying about thinking he was sucking your soul, but it was basically they're trying to contact you. They're trying to connect. And with my daughter, I'm like, don't fear it, sweetie. Just ask questions and ask questions in your head. You don't have to ask them out loud. And she's like, Mommy, why do I have this? I don't want this. And I'm like, sweetie, we're here. And we're different, and we're supposed to help. And I don't know much more, but you're not supposed to be afraid. And it's hard. She is afraid, and I don't want her to be like me. I want her to be strong, and I want her to accept her gifts and grow with them and nurture them and expand them and share them, and not with me just kind of hiding in this box and avoiding most people. So that's my story.
How old is she now?
She's 10.
She's 10. Lovely.
Yes.
Do you want to say something?
I find it useful to ask children before they get shushed up is, tell me what you remember before you were born. And
Yes.
most children, if they haven't been inhibited, will tell you all kinds of very, very clear memories.
Yes. And I have a girlfriend who her little girl, she does talk to me about this because she knows that I believe in it. And she tells me stories about her daughter saying, yes, Mommy, and before I came here, this is what you were doing. And I saw you doing this. And I remember this, Daddy doing that. And she's like this little girl. She's like 4 years old, and she's owning this. She's fully aware of what she's supposed to be doing here. Whereas I don't know if it's my age or my generation or the time I came here, but I don't quite understand what's going on. And I find with Elizabeth being a lot younger, it seems more natural for younger people. I think people in my age, I think we had to struggle a lot to figure this stuff out. And the younger the people are, it seems to be a little easier for them. I think we had to go through a lot of harder things.
Well, I just want to mention as well the fact that my mom is a very young soul, so she gave me a lot of love and compassion, but it was actually my dad who helped stimulate my spiritual growth. Like I said, I got away from it for a little bit, and then I went back into it after his support and this past life regression. And then it was around 18 when I started coming back into it, where I actually helped him out with spirituality. So it was actually like, if I didn't have the support of my dad, my mom was just as freaked out with this stuff as I was as a kid. So we're both crying because I saw a spirit walking down the hallway, and that's not helping anyone, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know,
You
like,
know, I think it's. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, like with my daughter, I was at my friend's house sitting, and we came home that night, and she jumped in my room, and she's like, "Mommy, the lady that was at my friend's house is in the living room." I'm like, "Well, what is she doing in the living room?" Instead of being afraid of it, and what does she look like, and what is she wearing? And like my daughter's describing these people. Well, the lady's a little bit older, and it looks like she dyes her hair, and she's wearing this top, and she's wearing these glasses, and I'm like, well, just ask her, what is she doing here? She's like, Mommy, she's just looking out the window, and I'm like, okay, but just I didn't have any of that growing up. There was nothing like that. I couldn't express any of this stuff. So with my daughter, with the fear, just talking her through it. So those are my experiences. Yeah, just trying.
I find.
Sorry?
We have 1 minute left. We have
Okay.
1 minute left. Okay, so how does, okay, Elizabeth, your website is? Elizabeth,
Sorry.
are you there?
Yep.
What's your website so people can reach you?
Yep, so my website is just elizabethapril.com, and I'm also posted over pretty much any and all social media you can think of, just with my name, Elizabeth April.
Elizabeth April.
Yes.
And Osie, how can people reach you?
They can't. They'll have to reach you, Janet, because I don't have anything going on. This is new to me, and I don't really share these things. But maybe if anybody wanted to, they could reach out to you.
Well, they can come see you at the conference at the aliencontactexpo.com. Sash, we have about 30 seconds.
I would just say, don't tell people not to be afraid, because that programs the word afraid, and just say, what do you want? And avoid giving them words with a don't, because
True.
whatever follows the don't is being programmed within.
Exactly. You're right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, Osie.
Thank you
Sasha,
so much.
listeners. Much love and blessings down.
See you in Canada.
We'll see you in Canada at the expo.
In Canada at the expo. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Who owns you? If you're not in control, then someone else is. Join me, Ivy West, for Voices on the Wind, Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern in Studio A. I discuss government, health, metaphysics, suppressed science, universal mysteries, little-known incredible facts, alternative energies, and even more than you can imagine. Won't you join us on Revolution Radio Saturdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern for Voices on the Wind with me, Ivy West.
There are lives in the balance, people under fire, children at the cannons.
Because if your head's in the sand, your tail is a target.